Hunter stepped out of his sleek black sports car, the streetlights reflecting off its polished surface like a mirror. At 37, he was the man many dreamed of becoming, a self-made billionaire. Powerful, welcomed everywhere with admiring eyes. Financial magazines called him an investment genius. Opportunists referred to him as a walking money tree. And for women, Hunter was the ideal man, wealthy, handsome, mysterious, and impossible to hold on to. Yet, behind the luxurious facade and glittering titles, Hunter's life was nothing but a cold void. In his sprawling mansion of thousands of square meters, he often dined alone on perfectly prepared meals that never carried the flavor of happiness. Sometimes, Hunter would glance at the long dining table, large enough for 10 people, and feel a pang of bitterness. In his entire life, he had never once experienced a true family dinner. Hunter's childhood had been far from peaceful. He grew up in a wealthy family, but his parents divorced when he was still young. His father drowned himself in work and fleeting romances, while his mother left with another man. Hunter once hoped, once waited, but the older he grew, the clearer it became. No one stayed by his side for long. And so the boy he once was slowly turned into a man, wrapped in coldness, building iron walls around himself, never allowing anyone in. Women Hunter would often scoff whenever friends brought them up. To him, they came only for his wealth and the glow of his status. He had seen too much dazzling beauties, trying to get close, smiling sweetly, promising affection, only to follow with endless material demands. At first, Hunter believed he tried. He hoped. But over time, he grew certain of one thing: true love was a luxury. That night, Hunter was once again alone in his vast office. The warm yellow light shone on abstract paintings, lining the walls, while a polished walnut desk was covered with documents and computers. He took a sip of red wine, his eyes resting on the only photo on the desk, a faded picture of a young boy with a radiant smile standing between his parents. Hunter no longer remembered that day clearly. He only remembered that after that photo, everything collapsed. His parents fought, separated, and left him in the care of household staff. Hunter slid the picture into a drawer and locked it. He didn't want the past to disturb the present. To him, happiness was nothing more than a cruel joke. A phone call broke his thoughts. His secretary reminded him of an important meeting with international investors the next morning. Hunter simply nodded his voice. "Cool. Arrange it as usual. I don't want any delays." Setting the phone down, he leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. At 37, he had everything the world admired, yet lacked one thing: the warmth of family, a genuine embrace that he no longer believed he would ever find. And Hunter had no idea that one seemingly ordinary morning on a crowded street filled with cars, fate would place Lena, a simple girl with a heart full of light, into his orbit. A woman who would begin to crack the iron walls around him, piece by piece. The next morning, the city awoke under a light drizzle. On the wide avenue leading downtown, streams of cars hurried forward. Hunter drove his familiar luxury car, preparing for an important meeting with foreign investors. Inside, classical music floated softly, yet his mind was occupied only with numbers, charts, and contracts. At a red light, an unexpected scene caught his eye. Amid the noisy traffic, a frail, elderly woman staggered across the street before suddenly collapsing. Passers-by merely glanced at her. A few motorbikes honked impatiently. No one stopped. Hunter frowned, ready to move on, as the light turned green. But at that very moment, a small figure darted out from the opposite side of the road. It was a young woman in a thin raincoat, her long hair soaked through by the rain. She bent down, helping the old woman up, shielding her with the only umbrella she had, holding it over the elderly lady instead of herself. Hunter froze. Through the windshield, he watched as the young woman, Lena, gently guided the old lady out of traffic, unbothered by the splashes of dirty water staining her shoes, unrushed, though it was clear she was in a hurry. She smiled warmly. "Take it slow, Grandma. I'll walk you across. No cameras, no one taking pictures, no spotlight. Just a simple act of kindness from the heart." The light had turned red again, yet Hunter still hadn't pressed the accelerator. His eyes were glued to the girl. A strange feeling stirred inside him, something he hadn't touched in years. When the cars behind blared their horns, Hunter snapped back and drove on. Glancing into the rearview mirror, he saw the girl still chatting with the old woman, her face radiant despite the rain. That image lingered in his mind for the rest of the morning. By noon, after a successful meeting, Hunter passed by a small cafe. To his surprise, there she was, again, Lena. Sitting by the window, no elaborate makeup, simply dressed, she was writing intently in a notebook. On the table sat nothing but a cheap black coffee and a worn cloth bag. Hunter felt an urge to know more about her. Part of him insisted it was just curiosity, but another part stirred restlessly. He stepped inside, choosing a seat not far from hers. Through a few casual words with the staff, Hunter overheard that Lena worked for a nonprofit organization, frequently volunteering for charity. More than once, she even spent part of her meager salary to buy rice and school supplies for orphans. Hunter smirked faintly. Doubt lingered in him. Could someone truly be that good? Or was it just another facade meant to impress? He rose to leave, but as he passed her table, their eyes met. Lena looked up and smiled, so naturally, so unguarded. "Did you drop your tissue?" she asked, holding out a small piece of paper that had fallen to the floor. Hunter froze. It wasn't a polite smile, nor a calculating glance. It was a genuine smile, so sincere, it unsettled him. He accepted the tissue, nodded briefly in thanks, and walked away. Yet his heart beat strangely fast. That night, in his silent mansion, Hunter sat before a glass of wine, unable to focus on his reports. The image of Lena shielding the old woman, her simple presence in the cafe, and that unpretentious smile replayed in his mind. He asked himself, what if she truly was different? What if there really was someone in this world who wasn't after wealth? But almost instantly, a cold voice inside him snapped back. "Don't be foolish, Hunter. All women are the same." He leaned back in his chair. Yet for the first time in years, Hunter wasn't entirely sure he still believed in that ironclad conviction. And he didn't know that at that very moment, fate had already begun opening a new path for him, a path that would lead him toward love and the healing he had long believed impossible. A few days later, Hunter happened to see Lena again. This time, it wasn't on the street or in a cafe, but at a charity fundraiser sponsored by his company. The coincidence surprised him for a moment, but then his cautious nature quickly resurfaced. Hunter entered the hall in a sleek black suit, surrounded by flashing cameras, applause, and flattering greetings. Everyone wanted to shake his hand, to network, to seek advantage from him. But amid the glittering crowd, Lena stood out in a different way. She wore a simple ivory dress, her hair neatly tied back her face, untouched by heavy makeup. Rather than seeking out powerful people to converse with, she sat quietly, with a group of orphans, patiently listening to their stories. From a distance, Hunter watched his gaze lingering. Inside, a curious, conflicted feeling stirred, part intrigue, part doubt. He walked over, deliberately, starting a conversation. "Why aren't you mingling with the donors? That's where all the important people are." Lena looked up and gave him a gentle smile. "Children are important too. They need someone to listen to them, more than they need glittering promises." Hunter froze for a second. A simple remark, yet it pierced through his armor of pride like a needle. He let out a faint, dismissive laugh to cover his unease. "Interesting. But do you really think your kindness can change anything?" Lena didn't argue. She simply bent down to wipe an ink stain off a boy's hand and replied softly, "Maybe not the whole world, but at least it can change someone's world." Her words left Hunter speechless. He turned and walked away, but his heart was beating irregularly. In the days that followed, Hunter deliberately sought out ways to see Lena more. He invited her to dine at the city's most luxurious restaurant, booking a table in a setting fit for royalty. But Lena only shook her head. "I'm sorry, I'm not used to places like that. If you'd like to meet, we could take a walk in the park or visit the children's shelter." Hunter was stunned. No woman had ever turned down his invitation, especially not when he offered extravagance at no cost to them. He tried again, sending her an expensive designer bag. But Lena returned it along with a small note. "You don't need to buy my attention. I value sincerity more." For the first time in years, Hunter felt at a loss. He didn't know how to approach her. The usual methods he used to test women were meaningless with Lena. He began to observe her from a distance, not out of control, but out of a desire to understand her. He saw her cooking meals for the homeless, teaching poor children to read, gathering old clothes to donate. Lena did everything without seeking the spotlight, without needing anyone's praise. That evening, Hunter returned home, sitting before the fireplace, recalling Lena's radiant smile as she handed out meals with the children. A fierce conflict rose within him. Could she really be genuine? Could there truly be someone who expects nothing from me? But instantly, the familiar fear resurfaced. Don't be naive. She's no different from the rest. Sooner or later, her greed will show. Hunter gripped his glass and drained it. He had grown used to a world of calculation and suspicion. Yet now Lena was causing the armor around him to crack. He wanted to believe, but the scars of the past still bound him tightly. Within Hunter, a silent battle had begun between trust and doubt, between fear and the yearning to be loved. That night, before going to sleep, Hunter opened a drawer and pulled out the old photo of himself with his parents. He stared at it for a long time, then whispered softly, "If love still exists, do I dare believe in it again?" Outside, the rain pattered steadily. In the dark, Hunter didn't realize that the very moment he began to wonder, his heart had already let in a small glimmer of Lena's light. One weekend afternoon, Hunter received an unexpected invitation from Lena. Not to a restaurant, not to a lavish event, but to accompany her to a small nursing home on the outskirts of the city. "Do you have time? The elderly there love having someone to talk to. I think maybe you'll feel something different," Lena said over the phone, her voice gentle yet firm. Hunter hesitated. He had never set foot in such a place. In his mind, they were dreary, sterile spaces, filled with the smell of disinfectant worlds, away from billion-dollar deals. Yet, for reasons he couldn't explain, he agreed. His luxury car pulled up in front of an old building. Lena was already waiting, dressed in a simple coat, holding a basket of fruit. She smiled when she saw him step out. "You came. Let's go. Everyone will be so happy." Hunter followed her in silence. But as the doors of the home opened, an unexpected warmth swept over him. Laughter and cheerful voices filled the air. The faint aroma of vegetable soup drifted from the kitchen, and the faces of the elderly lit up as Lena entered. "You're here, dear." An old woman with silver hair exclaimed, leaning on her cane. Lena ran over, embracing her, as if she were family. The sight stunned Hunter. He had never seen someone give affection so freely to those who shared no blood ties. Hunter was invited to sit with them. At first, he remained stern and quiet. But as he listened to their stories about life, about loneliness, when children moved far away, something inside him ached. An old man said softly, "We don't need much, just someone to remember us to visit, to ask how we're doing." Lena sat beside him, gently holding his hand, her eyes tender. Watching her, Hunter felt something stir within him, admiration and a strange, aching warmth. On the drive home, Hunter was the first to break the silence. "You come here often?" "Yes, once a week. The truth is, I grew up without much love, so I know how heavy loneliness can be. I don't want anyone to go through that." Hunter was taken aback. He looked at her, noticing the trace of hidden sorrow in her eyes, mingled with resilience. "And you do all this without expecting anything in return?" he asked. Lena smiled, shaking her head. "Kindness isn't meant to be traded. It's like light. It just needs to spread, and that's enough." Hunter said nothing. Her words echoed in his mind, breaking through his rigid doubts. For a moment, he saw the boy he once was, himself longing for an embrace, a word of care that never came. A week later, Lena brought Hunter to an orphanage. The children rushed to her, wrapping her in hugs, chattering about school, proudly showing off their drawings. Lena sat on the floor, letting them crowd around her, her face glowing like sunlight. Hunter stood there, overwhelmed by a strange emotion. He felt small in the presence of such simple joy. A little boy tugged his hand. "Mister, do you want to draw with us?" Hunter hesitated. Then, for the first time in years, he sat down and picked up a crayon. The children's laughter rang around him, and suddenly his heart felt light, as if the cold dust covering it was being washed away. Glancing at Lena beside him, Hunter realized what she gave was not material wealth, but warmth, sincerity, and family, the very things he had always longed for, but never dared believe were real. That night, back in his vast mansion, Hunter looked around. The dining table was still empty, the fireplace still warm, but with no one beside it. His mind drifted to the simple meal at the nursing home, the laughter of the orphans, the way Lena's eyes shone as she embraced an old woman. For the first time, Hunter asked himself, maybe money isn't everything. Maybe I've been missing the one thing that matters most, a real home. Autumn arrived, the city sky clearer than before, golden leaves falling gently along the long streets. Hunter continued to meet Lena, though he never admitted it to anyone. Their visits to the nursing home and the orphanage had become a routine, one he didn't want to lose. He began to feel a sense of peace when beside her, a feeling he once thought was nothing but an illusion. But that peace didn't last long. One morning, as soon as Hunter sat down in his office, his assistant rushed in, panic in his eyes, carrying a large stack of newspapers. "Sir, there's some unpleasant news about Miss Lena." Hunter snatched a copy, his sharp gaze scanning the bold headline on the front page, "The Mysterious Girl Beside Billionaire Hunter." merely exploiting his affection to seek fame. Below were a series of secretly taken photos. Lena entering a cafe with some friends. Lena speaking on the phone with another businessman. Lena receiving an envelope from a benefactor. All carefully framed to spark suspicion. The press dissected every detail. An ordinary girl appearing next to a billionaire. Could it truly be pure? Or is this just a stepping stone to climb into high society? Hunter's grip on the paper tightened, his heartbeat pounding. Painful memories surged like violent waves. His mother leaving women who once pretended to love him, only to abandon him when they got nothing more. I was too naive to think she was different, he thought bitterly, cold anger rising within him. That afternoon, Lena had asked him to meet her at the orphanage, but Hunter never showed up. He cut off all contact, dodging every call. When Lena went to his company, the secretary coolly told her, "Mr. Hunter is not receiving visitors." Standing outside the towering glass building, beneath the pale autumn sunlight, Lena still held a small gift bag meant for the children. She turned away silently, without a single word of reproach. In the following days, the press magnified the scandal. Malicious rumors spread that Lena was deliberately using her kindness to win public sympathy, then approaching Hunter to build her reputation. The crowd, as always, easily believed what they wanted to believe. Inside his vast mansion, Hunter sat before the glowing screen flooded with news of Lena. Each line cut into him like a blade. He wanted to believe in what he had seen with his own eyes, her genuine smile, her clear gaze, her gentle touch. But the fear of betrayal loomed larger. One evening, Hunter happened to pass through a poor district where a charity meal service was being held. He stopped his car, not out of curiosity, but because he had glimpsed a familiar figure. Lena. She was there dressed in a simple shirt, distributing hot meals alongside other volunteers to the homeless. Her face was tired, but her smile shone as bright as ever. No reporters, no audience, just her and the unfortunate souls. Hunter lingered in the shadows, his chest tightening. He saw a wealthy-looking man hand Lena a thick envelope. She glanced at it briefly before shaking her head and returning it. "Sorry, we only accept transparent contributions." "I don't want the children to bear the shame of unclear money." The man stormed off in frustration. Lena turned back, continuing to hand a meal box to an old woman, her smile undisturbed. In that instant, Hunter felt as though a blow had struck straight into his heart. All the rumors, all the accusations, suddenly became meaningless. He had seen Lena refuse money, the very thing so many would do anything to obtain. He realized he had been wrong to let the scars of the past blind him to the light before him, wrong for not having enough faith to stand by Lena's side. That night, back home, in his darkened mansion, Hunter sat in silence. Lena's words echoed in his mind. Kindness isn't meant to be exchanged for anything. It's like light, it just needs to spread. And that's enough. Unexpectedly, tears welled up in emotion he had long forgotten. Clenching his fists, he whispered into the darkness, "Lena, I was wrong. Will you ever forgive me?" Hunter had never seen himself so vulnerable. From an abandoned boy, he had fought to become untouchable. Money, power, and coldness were the armor he had worn for years. Yet now, watching Lena quietly do good despite the gossip, he suddenly realized that everything he had built was nothing more than an empty shell. That night, Hunter couldn't sleep. He scrolled through old photos on his phone, Lena beaming at the children, Lena listening intently to the elderly, Lena wiping the sweat off a boy's forehead after a game of soccer. Each picture pierced his chest like a needle. If I don't do something, I'll lose her forever. The next day, Hunter appeared at a major press conference for his company, something he rarely did himself. Dozens of reporters crowded in, cameras flashing relentlessly. Everyone expected Hunter to address the storm of rumors. He stood at the podium, his gaze steady, but his voice surprisingly warm. There are things I used to never believe in. I didn't believe kindness could exist without demanding something in return. I didn't believe that anyone could truly care for me when all I had were money and fame. The hall fell into complete silence. Hunter paused, inhaling deeply. But I was wrong. Lena, she is proof of the opposite. She doesn't need my fame, nor my money. Everything she does, whether anyone sees it or not, comes from the heart. And I want all of you to know, I believe in her. His words rang out like a vow. The reporters erupted, cameras flashing so brightly it was blinding. Some were so stunned they forgot to take notes. Never before had Hunter, the cold, distant billionaire, publicly defended anyone like this. Meanwhile, behind the stage, Lena stood holding a stack of documents for a charity fundraising event. She had no idea Hunter would come. Hearing her name spoken in that voice, her heart trembled. Tears welled up this time, warm and full of light. That evening, Hunter went to see her. Not in a tailored suit, not with bodyguards. Just a 37-year-old man, carrying a bare, vulnerable heart. He stood before her eyes, sincere. I'm sorry, Lena. I let fear consume me. I doubted you when I should have trusted you. Could you give me another chance? Lena was silent for a long moment. She looked into his eyes, seeing loneliness, seeing wounds that had never healed. And she also saw true remorse. She smiled softly, her voice gentle as the breeze. Hunter, chances aren't something to be granted. As long as you're genuine, trust will come on its own. In that moment, Hunter felt as if the world collapsed, only to be rebuilt again. A new world, one that had Lena in it. After the press conference, public opinion slowly shifted. Many who once doubted Lena now respected her. Charity funds received countless new donations, not out of pity, but out of admiration for the purity she steadfastly preserved. For the first time in his life, Hunter joined charity work, not as a billionaire sponsor, but as an ordinary man. He rolled up his sleeves, carried crates of water, handed out instant noodles, wiped sweat from his brow, just like everyone else. Children ran after him, shouting, "Uncle Hunter! Uncle Hunter!" He burst out laughing, a rare laugh from the depths of his soul. Lena watched from afar, her heart softening. But every change comes with its final test. Hunter knew that to truly be worthy of Lena, he needed more than an apology or a press conference. He had to face his past, his fear of loss, in the closed door of family he had locked for 37 years. And that journey had only just begun. Hunter thought everything had settled after the press conference. But Lena knew well that the fear buried deep inside him had never truly vanished. It was like a shadow, always lingering behind. If he truly wanted to step into a happy family, Hunter would have to learn how to face that shadow. One afternoon, Lena invited Hunter to an elderly care home on the outskirts of the city. At first, he hesitated, but eventually nodded. He thought it was just another charitable visit, not knowing that day would change his life forever. The nursing home was unusually quiet. The faint smell of medicine mixed with the aroma of hot tea. Lena led Hunter down the hallway and suddenly stopped in front of a room. She said softly, "Hunter, inside, there's someone I think you need to meet." Hunter frowned. "Who?" The door opened. An elderly woman, with hair completely white, her face lined with years of sorrow, lifted her head. Those eyes, the eyes Hunter had tried to forget for decades, looked at him trembling. "Hunter." She whispered his name through tears. Hunter froze. His heart pounded violently. It couldn't be mistaken. The woman before him was his mother, the one who had abandoned him as a child. The room fell into a heavy silence. Hunter stepped back, his eyes filled with fury. Why are you here? After all these years, you still dare to face me?" Her voice shook. "I was wrong, Hunter. I was young, foolish, without courage, without means. I left you, and I've regretted it every single day. But I never had the chance to come back until now." Hunter let out a bitter laugh, sharp with pain. "Regret. Do you have any idea what those years were like for me, alone, cold, with no one to trust? You're the reason I became a man who could never believe in love." Beside him, Lena saw his hand trembling. She gently laid her hand on his arm. "Hunter, I know you've endured so much, but running from the past won't make the wounds disappear. Only by facing them can you truly move forward." The tears Hunter despised so much suddenly burst forth. He didn't want to cry, but couldn't stop himself. His voice broke. I only ever wanted a normal family. Why was it so impossible?" The woman clasped her frail hands together, eyes brimming. "Hunter, I know I can't erase what I've done, but if there's still a chance, I just want to hold you once. Just once." Hunter looked at her trembling hands. For a fleeting moment, he saw himself as a little boy, curled up in the dark, wishing for an embrace that never came. His heart tore between anger and the desperate yearning to forgive. Finally, like a dam breaking, Hunter collapsed. He threw his arms around the woman who had abandoned him and sobbed like a child. Why did you leave me? I hate you, but I missed you too." The woman clung to him with shaking arms, crying as she whispered, "I'm sorry, my son. I'm so sorry." Lena quietly turned away, her own tears falling, but they were tears of joy. She knew this was the turning point. Hunter had faced the deepest wound of his life, and once he could forgive the past, the door to the future would finally open. In the days that followed, Hunter visited his mother often. At first, their conversations were awkward, halting. But gradually, fragments of sweet childhood memories resurfaced. He realized forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning to move on without carrying the weight in his heart. Lena was always by his side throughout that journey. She didn't push, didn't lecture, only walked beside him in silence. That quiet presence made Hunter cherish her even more. One evening, Hunter sat with Lena on the porch. A gentle breeze rustled the sky full of stars. He turned to her, his voice low but warm. "I once thought I'd never have a family, but now I want to try, with my mother and with you. Lena, will you be with me?" Lena smiled softly and nodded. "I'm here, Hunter." In that moment, for the first time in 37 years, Hunter knew he had truly found his home. Winter blanketed the city in white, but Hunter's heart was no longer frozen. Ever since he forgave his mother, the once cold mansion was now filled with laughter, the aroma of home-cooked meals, and warm conversation. Though frail, his mother was determined to take care of her son once again. For the first time in his life, Hunter no longer felt alone. Things had changed for Lena too. She was no longer just the mysterious girl by the billionaire's side as the press once called her. Instead, she became an inspiration to many. Her charitable foundation flourished not only because of her compassion, but also because Hunter now walked beside her, not merely with his wealth, but with genuine dedication. On a late winter's day, Hunter hosted a small gathering. It wasn't extravagant or ostentatious like his past parties, but intimate with only a few dear ones: his mother, Lena, children from the orphanage, and several elderly residents from the nursing home. The room echoed with laughter and music. Children ran about joyfully, clutching small gifts in their tiny hands. Hunter watched his heart swelling with happiness. When he turned, he saw Lena sitting beside his mother, chatting warmly, her smile tender and kind. In that moment, Hunter understood this. This simple, imperfect, but genuine togetherness was what he had been searching for all his life. A family, a place where the heart could rest. As the evening unfolded, Hunter suddenly rose, lifting a glass of red wine. Tonight, I don't want to talk about work or success. I just want to say this: I have finally found my family. Mother, thank you for coming back. Lena, thank you for teaching me to believe in love and kindness. He paused, then stepped in front of Lena. The room fell silent. Slowly, he knelt down and pulled out a ring, simple, yet exquisitely crafted. Lena, you've changed my life. Will you marry me? Will you help me build a true family? The atmosphere burst into joy. Children squealed, his mother wept, and the elderly smiled in blessing. Lena's eyes shimmered with tears as she gasped, overwhelmed. With a trembling voice, she whispered, "Yes, I will." Hunter embraced her as the room filled with applause, laughter, and tears of happiness. Later that night, he sat with Lena on the porch, wrapping a coat around her shoulders as she leaned against him. His mother rested inside, while the children slept peacefully after a day of celebration. The city lights sparkled in the distance, yet the light inside Hunter's heart burned brighter than ever. He whispered softly, "I once thought money was everything, but now I know. Love and family are the greatest treasures of all." Lena smiled, squeezing his hand. "That's right, Hunter. Love and kindness only grow stronger when we share them." They sat together beneath the star-filled sky, and from that moment on, a new journey began. A journey of love, family, and compassion, where Hunter was no longer the lonely billionaire, but a man who had finally found the true home of his heart.